The letter arrived on a Thursday, which seemed appropriate for bad news. Chen stood in her cramped Brooklyn studio apartment, surrounded by half-finished canvases and the smell of linseed oil, reading words that would change everything. Dear Ms. Chen, we regret to inform you that your application for the Caldwell Foundation grant has been declined. While your portfolio showed technical proficiency, the selection committee felt your work lacked the innovative vision necessary for. She stopped reading. Declined. Again. That made 7 rejections this year, each one a door closing, each one a reminder that technical proficiency wasn't enough. The art world wanted vision, innovation, something she apparently didn't possess. Maya crumpled the letter and threw it toward the overflowing trash bin. It missed. Everything lately seemed to miss. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother, * dinner Sunday? Dad wants to talk about the accounting position at his firm. Still available. The accounting position. The safety net. The admission of defeat her parents had been holding open for 3 years, ever since she'd graduated with a fine arts degree they'd reluctantly funded and immediately regretted. She should text back. Should be grateful. Should accept that some people were meant to create art and others were meant to have practical careers that paid rent on time. Instead, Maya picked up her brush and turned to the canvas she'd been working on for weeks. A restoration piece, technically not even her own work. The original painting had been damaged in a gallery fire, and the owner had hired her to repair it. Restoration work paid better than her own art ever had, which said everything about her career trajectory. The painting was 19th century, a landscape of the Hudson River Valley. Beautiful in a conventional way. Safe. Exactly the kind of art Maya had spent for years learning to create and another 3 years failing to move beyond. She mixed colors with mechanical precision, matching the original artist's palette perfectly. This she could do. Replication, restoration, making things look exactly as they had before. It was her own vision that remained elusive. The door to her studio apartment banged open. Her roommate Jenna entered, arms full of grocery bags, face flushed with cold. You look tragic, Jenna announced. What happened? Caldwell rejected me. Those pretentious assholes wouldn't know real talent if it painted their portrait. Jenna dumped the groceries on the counter. You're better off without their blood money anyway. Their blood money would have paid my rent for a year. Details. Jenna began unpacking. You know what you need? A dramatic change. A complete reinvention. Like, move to Paris and paint cafes. Or become a tattoo artist. Or, restore art for super rich people. That pays well, right? I already restore art. No, I mean for billionaires. The kind of people who own actual Rembrandts in their bathroom. Charge them obscene amounts of money and use it to fund your real work. Maya laughed despite herself. You think billionaires are just advertising for art restorers? Probably. Everything's on the internet now. Jenna pulled out her phone and started typing. See? Art Restoration Jobs New York. Oh, look at this one, seeking expert conservator for private collection. Immediate start. Competitive compensation. Discretion required. That sounds like a scam. Or it sounds like someone rich who doesn't want people knowing they damaged their expensive art. Jenna thrust the phone toward her. Apply. What's the worst that could happen? Maya took the phone and read the listing. It was vague, almost suspiciously so. No company name, no specific artworks mentioned, just a promise of competitive pay and a requirement for a portfolio review. She should ignore it. Should focus on her actual applications to legitimate galleries and foundations. Should accept that success meant following the proper channels, not responding to sketchy internet postings. Apply, Jenna said again. Do something reckless for once. You're always so careful, Maya. always following the rules, waiting for permission. Maybe this is your chance to just leap. The word resonated. Leap. She'd been so careful, so afraid of missteps, that she'd forgotten how to move forward at all. Fine, Maya said. But when I get kidnapped by art thieves, you're paying my ransom. Deal. She applied that night, attaching her portfolio and a cover letter she rewrote 6 times before deciding it didn't matter anyway. Scam applications didn't require perfect grammar. The response came within an hour. Ms. Chen, thank you for your application. We'd like to invite you for an interview tomorrow at 2 p.m. Please come to the following address. The address was on the Upper East Side. Very Upper East Side. The kind of neighborhood where Dorman wore white gloves and Maya's student loan debt could have bought a closet. See? Jenna crowed when Maya showed her the email. Told you. Rich people with damaged art. Or organ harvesters with good taste. Optimist. But Maya confirmed the interview, because Jenna was right about one thing: she'd been careful for too long. Maybe it was time to leap. The building was even more intimidating in person. Pre-war limestone, the kind of architecture that spoke of old money and older traditions. Maya stood outside for 5 minutes, gathering courage, before finally entering. The doorman barely glanced at her. Name: Maya Chen. I have a 2 p.m. appointment. He checked his list, nodded, gestured toward the elevator. Penthouse. Mr. Winters is expecting you. The elevator was paneled in mahogany and mirrored. Maya watched her reflection rise, noting her worn jeans and paint-stained jacket. She should have dressed better. Should have pretended to belong here. Too late now. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse apartment, which was less an apartment and more a private museum. Artwork covered every wall, genuine pieces Maya recognized from textbooks and gallery catalogues. A Monet. 2 Picassos. Something that might have been a genuine Vermeer. Ms. Chen. She turned. The man approaching was younger than she'd expected, maybe mid-30s, wearing expensive casual clothes and an expression of polite assessment. I'm David Winters. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Thank you for the opportunity. Maya's voice came out steadier than she felt. Your collection is extraordinary. My father's collection, actually. I'm just the custodian. He gestured for her to follow. The piece I need restored is in the study. It's delicate. Delicate turned out to be an understatement. The painting in the study was 17th century Dutch, a portrait of a merchant's wife, and someone had slashed it. Deliberately, violently. The canvas was torn in 3 places, the face nearly destroyed. Maya's breath caught. What happened? My sister. David's voice was flat. During an argument about our father's will. She was drunk, angry. She's apologized, but the damage is done. Have you contacted the police? No. The word was sharp. And I won't be. This remains private. My father died 6 months ago. His will is being contested. If word gets out that his collection is being damaged by family disputes, the value plummets. Creditors circle. Everything falls apart. Maya studied the painting, her professional assessment overriding her shock. The damage was severe, but potentially repairable. The tears were clean, not ragged. The paint layer was stable. It would take weeks, maybe months, but it could be done. I can fix this, she said quietly. I know. I've reviewed your portfolio. Your restoration work is exceptional. David moved closer. But I need more than skill. I need discretion. No one can know about this damage. No one can know you're working here. If you accept this job, you'll sign a non-disclosure agreement. You'll work exclusively on this piece until it's complete. And you'll be compensated well enough that you won't need other work for at least a year. The offer was too good. Too convenient. Too exactly what she needed. Why me? Maya asked. There are conservators with decades more experience. Because they have reputations to protect. They'd ask questions, make demands, potentially leak information. His eyes met hers. You're talented but unestablished. You need the money and the experience. You're hungry enough to take risks. It should have been insulting. Instead, it was simply true. What's the pay? He named a figure that made her stomach drop. 6 months of rent. A year of supplies. Enough to quit her 3 part-time jobs and actually focus on her own work. I'll need to see the non-disclosure agreement first, Maya said. David smiled. Of course. My lawyer will have it ready within the hour. She should have walked away. Should have recognized this was too strange, too secretive, too much like the beginning of a story that ended badly. Instead, she signed the NDA, accepted the advance payment, and started work the next day. The study became Maya's world. David converted an adjoining room into a temporary conservation studio, complete with proper lighting, ventilation, and equipment that cost more than her entire education. She worked alone, doors locked, with instructions to text David before leaving so he could ensure no one saw her. The secrecy should have bothered her more than it did. Instead, Maya found it oddly liberating. No one watching, no one judging. Just her and the damaged painting and the meticulous work of repair. The portrait was exquisite beneath the damage. The merchant's wife had a face both stern and gentle, her eyes holding secrets the artist had somehow captured. Maya spent the first week just studying it, understanding the original technique before attempting any restoration. David checked on her progress daily. Brief visits, professional questions, but Maya noticed he always stayed longer than necessary. Noticed the way he studied her work with genuine interest, not just a client's casual concern. You're different when you work, he observed one afternoon, watching her carefully clean the torn edges. More confident. I know what I'm doing here, Maya said without looking up. Restoration has rules, procedures. It's not like creating original work where you're just guessing. Is that how you see your own art? Guessing? The question surprised her into meeting his eyes. Isn't that what it is? Throwing ideas at a canvas and hoping something resonates. Or it's trusting your instinct. Believing your vision has value. David moved closer. I've seen your original work in your portfolio. It's technically perfect, Maya. But it feels restrained. Like you're holding back. The art world doesn't agree with you. The art world is run by people who mistake novelty for innovation. Your work is subtle. That doesn't make it less valuable. She wanted to dismiss the compliment, but the sincerity in his voice stopped her. You don't have to be kind. You're already paying me. I'm not being kind. I'm being honest. He paused. My father collected art his entire life. He taught me to see past trends, past what was fashionable, to what was genuine. Your work is genuine. The conversation stayed with Maya long after David left. She'd spent so long seeking validation from grants and galleries that she'd forgotten art could simply exist. Could be created for its own sake, not as a bid for approval. She worked later that night than planned, losing herself in the careful process of aligning torn canvas fibers. When she finally looked up, her neck aching, it was past midnight. The door opened. David entered with 2 cups of coffee and an apologetic expression. I saw your light still on. Thought you might need this. You're still here. I live here. He handed her a cup. This apartment is too big to leave, apparently. My father's gift and curse. Maya accepted the coffee, grateful. Tell me about him. My father. David settled into a chair. He was brilliant, difficult, impossible to please. He built his wealth from nothing, which meant he respected nothing he didn't build himself. Including his children. Sounds complicated. He was. But he loved beauty. Art was the only thing that softened him. David gestured to the portrait Maya was restoring. This painting was one of his favorites. Said the woman reminded him of my mother. When my sister destroyed it, she destroyed one of his last happy memories. And you're protecting him even after death. I'm protecting the family. There's a difference. But his voice lacked conviction. They talked until 2 a.m., the conversation drifting from art to family to the strange isolation of living in a city of millions while feeling utterly alone. Maya learned David had studied art history before his father forced him into business. Learned he spent his weekends at small galleries, buying works from unknown artists his collection would never showcase. Why not? Maya asked. It's your collection now. Because my father's legacy has rules. His taste, his vision. Changing it feels like erasing him. Or it's becoming yourself. David smiled. You're wise for someone so young. I'm 25. You're what, 35? That's hardly ancient. 34. An ancient in mistakes. Something shifted in the air between them. Maya felt it, dangerous and electric. She set down her coffee carefully. I should go. It's late. Yes. But David didn't move. Maya, can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you really take this job? Beyond the money. She could have lied, given a safe answer. Instead, she found herself telling the truth. Because I was tired of waiting for permission to matter. Tired of following rules that never led anywhere. This job, this secrecy, it's reckless and probably stupid, but it's mine. I chose it. That felt important. David's expression softened. I understand that better than you know. They stood there in the quiet studio, the damaged painting between them, and Maya realized she was in trouble. Not the legal kind, though the NDA she'd signed probably had clauses she hadn't read carefully enough. The personal kind. The kind that started with late-night conversations and ended with complications she couldn't afford. I really should go, she said again. This time, David stepped back. Of course. I'll call you a car. I can take the subway. It's 2 a.m. Let me call a car. Please. She let him, because arguing seemed dangerous in its own way. Because staying in this space with him, with the intimacy of shared confidences and careful distance, felt like standing at the edge of something she wasn't ready to name. The car arrived within minutes. David walked her to the elevator, proper and polite, but at the last moment, his hand caught hers. Thank you, he said quietly. For understanding. Understanding what? Why this matters. The painting, the discretion, all of it. Most people wouldn't. Maya squeezed his hand once, then released it. Most people don't need the money as desperately as I do. I don't think that's the only reason you stayed. He was right, but she didn't admit it. The elevator doors closed between them, and Maya rode down alone, her hand still warm from his touch. She was definitely in trouble. Work on the portrait progressed slowly, as all good conservation did. Maya spent hours each day carefully rejoining the torn canvas, using techniques centuries old and materials she had to specially order. David watched often, his presence both distracting and oddly comforting. They fell into a rhythm. Morning work sessions where Maya focused intensely while David worked at the study desk, both present but separate. Afternoon conversations when she needed breaks, discussing art and technique and the philosophy of restoration. Evening departures that came later and later, until Maya was spending more time in David's apartment than her own. Jenna noticed immediately. "You're sleeping with him," she announced one night when Maya finally returned home. "I'm not." "But you want to." Maya couldn't deny that. "It's complicated." "It's always complicated with rich guys. That's their brand." Jenna flopped on the couch. "Just be careful. You signed an NDA, not a relationship contract. There's no relationship. Yet." The word hung there, possibility and warning intertwined. But Jenna was wrong about the timing. The kiss came 3 weeks into the project, on an evening when Maya was frustrated by a particularly difficult section of damage. She'd been working for hours, achieving nothing, and her hands had started shaking from exhaustion. "Stop," David said, watching her fumble a brush. "You're going to damage it further." "I know what I'm doing." "You're exhausted. When did you last eat?" Maya couldn't remember. Breakfast, maybe. She'd been too focused to notice hunger. David left and returned with a plate of food from somewhere in the massive apartment. Cheese, fruit, bread. Simple and perfect. "Eat," he commanded. She did, and the food helped, grounding her back in her body. David sat across from her, not eating, just watching with that intense focus he brought to everything. "You care too much," he said finally. "About the painting. About everything. I see it in how you work. You're not just restoring the portrait, you're trying to perfect it. Trying to prove something. That's not true. Isn't it? Every brushstroke is deliberate, agonized over. You're terrified of making mistakes." The accuracy stung. Restoration doesn't allow mistakes. Life does. He leaned forward. "Maya, your restoration work is flawless because you're replicating someone else's vision. But your original art suffers because you're afraid to commit to your own. You've seen 3 pieces of my original work. You can't possibly. I've seen your sketchbook." She froze. "What?" "It was on the table last week. I looked through it while you were on a call. I shouldn't have, but I did." His expression held no apology. "The sketches in there are extraordinary. Raw, emotional, genuine. But you don't finish them. You start brilliant ideas and abandon them halfway." Maya's cheeks burned. "Those are private." "I know. I'm sorry. But I'm also right." She stood abruptly, needing distance. "You had no right." "I didn't." "You're absolutely correct. I invaded your privacy and I apologize." David stood too, moving toward her. "But I'm not sorry for what I learned. You're incredibly talented, Maya. Not just technically, but artistically. You just don't trust yourself enough to believe it. And you're an expert on trust? You hired me to secretly restore a painting damaged by your sister while you pretend everything's fine with your family." The words came out harsher than intended. David flinched, then smiled wryly. "Fair point. I shouldn't have said that. No, you're right. I'm lecturing you about courage while hiding from my own family drama." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "My sister calls weekly, demanding I drop the will contest. My lawyers tell me to cut contact. I do neither. I just exist in this apartment, surrounded by my father's choices, pretending I'm honoring his legacy when really I'm just afraid to make my own decisions." The vulnerability in his admission shifted something. Maya's anger dissolved into understanding. "We're both cowards," she said quietly. Professionally cautious, David corrected with a slight smile. "Terrified." "That too." They stood in the quiet studio, the damaged portrait between them bearing silent witness. The distance that had been careful and appropriate suddenly felt unbearable. Maya didn't know who moved first. Maybe both of them simultaneously, drawn together by mutual recognition of fear and longing and the desperate need to be seen by someone who understood. The kiss was soft at first, questioning. Then deeper, certain. David's hands framed her face with the same careful precision he brought to everything, and Maya let herself forget all the reasons this was complicated. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back. "We shouldn't," Maya said. "No. This violates about 12 professional boundaries. Probably more. I should go." "Yes." But his hands hadn't released her face. Maya made the decision for both of them, stepping back despite every instinct screaming otherwise. "I need this job, David. I need the money and the experience and the reference you promised. I can't risk complicating it." "You're right." His hands dropped. "I apologize. That was inappropriate. It wasn't just you." Still. He moved to the door, creating physical distance. "I'll be more careful. This won't happen again." "Good." Neither of them believed it. Maya left early that night, the car service David called arriving within minutes. She spent the ride home touching her lips, remembering, knowing she should regret what happened but finding only want. Jenna took one look at her face and sighed. "You kissed him." "It was a mistake." "Was it?" Maya collapsed on the couch. "I don't know. Maybe. Yes. Definitely. But you want to do it again." "Irrelevant. I need to finish this job, get paid, and move on with my life." Getting involved with David Winters is the opposite of moving on. Or it's exactly what moving on looks like, Jenna suggested. "You've spent 3 years playing it safe, Maya. Applying to the right grants, painting the right subjects, waiting for the right people to notice you. Maybe it's time to do something wrong. Kissing my employer is definitely wrong." "But is it?" Jenna settled beside her. "Look, I'm not saying marry the guy. I'm saying you're 25 and miserable and scared. Maybe a little recklessness is exactly what you need." Maya wanted to argue, but exhaustion weighed heavy. "I'll think about it." "That's the most decisive thing you've said all year." Jenna was right, and they both knew it. Maya had built her life on careful decisions, on avoiding risks that might lead to failure. And where had it gotten her? Rejected by every major grant, unknown in the art world, living in a studio apartment with second-hand furniture and student loans she'd be paying until 40. Maybe recklessness was exactly what she needed. Maya returned to work the next day determined to maintain professional distance. The determination lasted approximately 4 hours, until David appeared with lunch and an apology. "I've been thinking," he said, setting down sandwiches from the deli she'd mentioned liking. "About what you said last night. About needing this job." "David. Let me finish. You're right that getting involved complicates things. But I think we're already involved. Have been since that first late-night conversation." He met her eyes. "I'm not your employer, Maya. My father's estate pays you. I'm just the custodian of his collection. Technically, we're not violating any workplace rules. That's a technicality. It's also true." He moved closer, careful but deliberate. "I like you. I think you like me. We're both adults. Why are we pretending otherwise?" "Because it's safer," Maya thought. Because wanting things led to disappointment, and disappointment led to the kind of paralysis she'd been fighting for years. But she was tired of safety. Tired of careful. Tired of waiting for permission to want what she wanted. "Okay," she said. David blinked. "Okay? Let's do this. Whatever this is. But with rules." "Rules?" "The painting comes first. I'm here to work, not to date. When I'm in this studio, I'm professional. Outside of work hours, we can not be professional." A smile tugged at David's mouth. "I can agree to those terms." And if it gets complicated, if it interferes with the restoration, we stop. Immediately. Agreed. And you never, ever look through my sketchbook without permission again. Absolutely agreed. He held out his hand. Deal. Maya shook it, feeling the warmth of his palm against hers. Deal. They managed professional distance for the rest of the afternoon. Maya worked, David handled estate business, both carefully not acknowledging the electricity humming between them. Then 6 p.m. arrived, and the rules changed. David appeared in the studio doorway. Work hours are over. Are they? Unless you want to keep working. Maya set down her brush, pulse racing. No. I'm done for the day. Good. He crossed to her, no hesitation now. I've been thinking about kissing you again for the last 14 hours. That's very specific. I'm a specific person. This kiss was different from the first. No hesitation, no questioning. Just wanton certainty and the delicious feeling of choosing something purely because she desired it. They broke apart slowly. Maya's hands had somehow ended up tangled in David's hair, his arms around her waist. We should probably not do this in the studio, she said, breathless. Probably not. Neither of them moved. David's laugh was low, warm. I have a ridiculous apartment with multiple rooms. We could relocate. We could. They relocated. What happened next was private, theirs, the kind of intimacy that didn't need documentation. But afterward, lying in David's bed with city lights painting the ceiling, Maya felt something shift. Not just physically, though that had been extraordinary. Emotionally. She'd spent so long being careful, being measured, that she'd forgotten what it felt like to simply leap. What are you thinking? David asked, his hand tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. That I'm probably going to regret this in the morning. Will you? Maya considered. No. Actually, I don't think I will. Good. He pressed a kiss to her temple. For the record, I won't either. They stayed like that for a while, comfortable in silence, until Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Jenna, *, please tell me you're getting reckless. *. Maya smiled and typed back, *, very. *. The response was immediate, *, finally. *. Your roommate? David asked. Encouraging my bad decisions. I like her already. The weeks that followed fell into a pattern that felt both surreal and completely natural. Maya worked on the portrait during the day, making steady progress on the restoration. The torn canvas was responding well to treatment, the paint layer stabilizing beautifully. It would never be exactly as it was before the damage, but it would be close. Close enough that only an expert would notice the repairs. In the evenings, she and David existed in their own world. They cooked together in his massive kitchen, argued about art at the dining table, made love with increasing familiarity and decreasing caution. Maya even started bringing her own sketches, working on original pieces in David's study while he read or worked. You're getting bolder, he observed one night, watching her attack a canvas with confident strokes that would have terrified her months ago. Or reckless. Is there a difference? Maya paused, considering. I used to think so. Now I'm not sure. The painting she was working on was abstract, emotional, nothing like her previous careful landscapes and still lifes. It was messy and imperfect and entirely hers. David moved behind her, arms circling her waist. It's extraordinary. It's unfinished. So? It's still extraordinary. She leaned into him, letting herself accept the compliment. Letting herself believe, just a little, that maybe her vision did have value. But happiness, Maya was learning, made people careless. Made them forget that complications existed outside their private bubble. The reminder came on a Tuesday, when Maya arrived at the apartment to find a woman in the penthouse. She was younger than Maya, maybe 22, with David's same honey-blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. She stood examining the portrait Maya had been restoring, her expression unreadable. "You must be the conservator," she said without looking up. Maya's stomach dropped. "I'm Maya Chen. Rebecca Winters." Now she turned, and Maya saw the resemblance clearly. David's sister. The one who destroyed this painting. The words hung in the air, accusation and confession intertwined. "I didn't realize you were coming," Maya said carefully. David didn't know. "I still have keys." Rebecca moved closer, studying Maya with uncomfortable intensity. "You're doing good work. It's almost invisible. That's the goal with restoration. Erasing mistakes. Making it like the damage never happened." Rebecca's smile was bitter. Convenient. Maya didn't know how to respond. This woman had slashed a priceless painting, then apparently felt no remorse about it. Or felt too much. The line between the two was sometimes hard to distinguish. "Rebecca." David appeared in the doorway, his expression carefully neutral. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting." "I'm allowed, aren't I?" "It's still half my apartment until the will is settled." "You know that's not true." "Don't I?" Rebecca's voice rose. "Father left everything to you, David. The art, the apartment, the money. I got a trust fund I can't access until I'm 30 and a lecture about responsibility delivered from beyond the grave. You know why he structured it that way? Because I made mistakes? Because I'm the difficult child who never lived up to his standards." She laughed, sharp and pained. "You're so busy protecting his legacy that you've forgotten he was cruel, David. He pitted us against each other our entire lives. And you're still playing his game." David's jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair? You hired someone to secretly repair the painting I damaged so you can pretend it never happened. So you can keep everything exactly as Father wanted it. That's not fair, David. That's pathological." Maya suddenly felt like an intruder. This was family business, painful and private, and she shouldn't be witnessing it. "I should go," she said quietly. "No." Rebecca turned to her. "You should stay. You should hear this. Do you know why I slashed that painting?" "Rebecca," David's voice held warning. "Because it was Father's favorite. Because he looked at it more tenderly than he ever looked at me. Because I was drunk and angry and tired of being invisible in my own family." She moved closer to the portrait, her hand hovering over Maya's repair work. "I wanted to destroy something he loved, just once. Wanted him to feel what I felt." "He was already dead," David said quietly. "I know. That's why it didn't help." Rebecca's hand dropped. "Fixing this painting won't bring him back, David. It won't make his will less cruel or our family less broken. It'll just be a beautiful lie you can hang on the wall and pretend everything's fine." The accusation landed hard. Maya saw David flinch, saw the truth of it register. "I'm protecting his memory," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "You're hiding from your own life." Rebecca grabbed her purse. "I came to apologize. To say I'm sorry for the damage, sorry for the argument, sorry for being the family disappointment. But I'm realizing I'm not sorry. I'm just done." She walked to the elevator, then paused. "The conservator's good, David. You should actually pay her what she's worth, not what you think will keep her quiet." The elevator doors closed behind her, leaving Maya and David in terrible silence. "I'm sorry you had to see that," David said finally. "Your sister's right." He turned to her, surprised. "What?" "About the painting. About you hiding." Maya moved to stand in front of the portrait. "I've spent weeks repairing this, making it look like the damage never happened. But the damage did happen. And pretending otherwise doesn't honor the painting or your father's memory. It just lets you avoid dealing with what's actually broken. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I've been doing the same thing with my art. Trying to fix everything, make it perfect, hide all the messy, complicated parts. But that's not how life works, David. Not how art works. The damage is part of the story now. David stared at her, then at the painting. What are you suggesting? I don't know. But I think you need to talk to your sister. Really talk, not just argue about the will. She destroyed a priceless painting. She destroyed a symbol of pain. There's a difference. He was quiet for a long time. Then, you sound like my therapist. You have a therapist? Recommended by my lawyer during the estate settlement. I've been avoiding her calls. David. I know. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. I know I'm avoiding things. I know I'm hiding behind my father's collection instead of living my own life. But changing feels like betraying him. Or it feels like finally becoming yourself. The words echoed what Maya had told him weeks ago, before they'd become complicated, before want had mixed with understanding. David looked at her, really looked, and Maya saw him seeing her. Not as the conservator he'd hired or the woman he was sleeping with, but as someone who understood. Who'd been hiding too. Help me, he said quietly. Help you what? Figure out what to do. With the painting, with Rebecca, with all of it. I don't trust my own judgment anymore. Maya's first instinct was to refuse. This wasn't her family, her drama, her choice to make. But then she remembered Jenna's words, maybe recklessness is exactly what you need. Okay, she said. But you're not going to like my suggestion. Tell me anyway. Stop hiding the damage. Display the painting as it is, tears and all. Make it part of the story instead of something shameful to erase. David stared at her like she'd suggested burning the entire collection. That's insane. Is it? Art restorers do it sometimes. Visible mending.